My Hero Academia has ended, Jujutsu Kaisen is supposedly ending this year, and the first arc of One Piece's final saga is pretty much complete, although there's all the chance in the world that this final saga will last until 2030. But it contains the word final, so that makes it sound like it is ending very soon, and these three are the biggest series that Shonen Jump has to offer right now. So ignoring One Piece, since it's been going on for so long and will be going on for so long that it's pretty much transcended the concept of generations, new gen, old gen in anime and manga, when Jujutsu Kaisen ends, there will be a need for new series that will take up the positions of the new heavy hitters of shonen, and I have no doubt that such series will step up and shine now that the opportunity has shown itself, and that hole will be filled, meaning that the only question is, which series will it be? My money is on the likes of Sakamoto Days and Dandadan having pretty strong cases, especially with their respective anime adaptations releasing very soon, which will help boost their star power and that I have high hopes for. And then there's one more series that I think is almost sure to become one of the big stars in the future, and I say this with all seriousness that it is Kagurabachi. And this may sound like a joke, but the two biggest pieces of evidence regarding the mangas and even any future anime adaptation success is, number one, all of the attention it garnered before the first chapter was released, and second, it hasn't been axed by Jump after 20 chapters. For the first point, if you were there for the build-up to the Kagurabachi Chapter 1 release, then you'll understand the fanfare surrounding it. Me calling it the build-up even kind of makes it sound like there was a huge amount of official marketing and promotional material put out there in anticipation for its debut, but that's just not how it went at all. The hype surrounding Kagurabachi was entirely of the fans' doing. Boiling it down, it was pretty much Kagurabachi being praised and glazed, so much to the point that even before the very first chapter was even released, it became common knowledge that this manga was is the greatest of all time. So that's already giving it way more attention than arguably any other manga in recent times has gotten for its initial debut, meaning it's already got a vastly larger amount of people tuning in to see what this story is all about, even if a large chunk of them are only doing so in a sort of joking or even condescending way. Like, of course, everyone knows that its first chapter isn't going to be so insanely good that with this one singular chapter it will already deserve to be mentioned among names like the big three. The story will be not bad, is probably what was realistically expected of it, just not bad. Only what people have found since and all the way up to the latest chapter is that, which I will go into more detail about later, is that it's better than not bad. Kagurabachi is genuinely good. And the second point, the fact that it has made it to as many chapters as it currently has. There are 44 chapters so far, which doesn't seem like too many until you put it into perspective with the fact that most series that get published in Shonen Jump get axed before they even hit 25 chapters. There are many different factors that determine whether a story gets cancelled, but it ultimately comes down to sales and reception. Shonen Jump is the biggest manga publishing magazine in Japan, so there's always going to be an unimaginable number of people trying to get their series published in it. So if a new story isn't performing well or isn't reaching the bar that Jump has set, then it is simply cut and replaced with the next new series and next new up-and-coming author that will take its place. Even if it had potential to be special later down the line, if it's not popular and drawing eyes from the get-go, then it's just taking up space. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is bad, so it's just not worth the risk for the magazine. Even someone like Kishimoto, the author of Naruto, got his second manga axed after 50 chapters, and I think if it wasn't for his stature in the industry, it probably would have been cut at like 30 chapters. This isn't a comment on the actual quality of the story at all, because I haven't read the story, but I feel pretty comfortable in saying that because of how notorious the cutthroat nature of the industry is. So having said all of this, Kagurabachi seems pretty safe, especially since it sold 200,000 copies with only its first volume, which is huge. And on top of that, it's a battle shonen, so with the magazine target audience being teenage boys, it's the optimal sort of subgenre for it to fall under, since it's those stories that will more often than not get the most exposure. And back to the story being genuinely good, with it having released around 40 chapters, I'd say its general quality can now be determined, since in my opinion I think that you can't 100% tell how good a manga is until it has at least a few dozen chapters out, when it's at least a couple arcs in with the story in full swing, which Kagurabachi now is. The story follows rokuhira Chihiro, the son of a blacksmith who created 7 extremely powerful katana called the enchanted blades, and is now on a mission to avenge his father who was assassinated. So there's no Pirate King or Hokage or Wizard King-esque goal here. Chihiro himself is stoic. He has a cold exterior which after a couple chapters won't push him to seem like the most compelling protagonist. However, he has this edginess that does make him cool and is definitely necessary if his main goal is seeking out his father's killers and giving them a bloody end. But what helps with his edginess is his character's softer side, which is introduced as early as just after the first couple chapters, where without him needing to say much, it's clear from the expression painted across his face and the choices he makes and the actions he takes that he is much more than just a cold-hearted man driven by revenge. He rarely smiles, has a scar across his face, wears all black and is a swordsman. It's nothing new, you've seen it so many times before that it's not even funny, so wouldn't that make him generic? It would, if that's all there was to him, because there's a lot more, and like I said before, how his edginess is necessary. Imagine if he was a character like Asta from Black Clover, who is so loud and even obnoxious for some people. A character like that wouldn't work at all with this kind of story. And I know that sometimes the tough, edgy characters can be bland, but that's not the case here, where the nature of Rokuhira Chihiro's character is written as such that it both fits well into and serves the tone of the narrative really nicely in the manga. And beyond that, the side cast holds its own as well. Of course, with it not even having hit 50 chapters yet, the cast hasn't been expanded too far that it would be hard to balance them, but as for now, Chihiro has held his own as the MC, but it isn't the Chihiro show. Both arcs that have been released so far have had characters that elevated that specific arc, and Chihiro's own character while being good characters in their own right, and I'm sure that there's more to come. The cast have unique relationships and interactions with each other, so they each feel like their own person. They don't fade into the background as you're reading. The first arc is a strong start to the manga, and in my opinion the second arc is even better. The two of them can be distinguished and separated as their own isolated stories, but at the same time it's completely obvious how they serve the larger plot. As a whole, it's got tension and substance and style that adds to it. Like, the fights aren't just there as cool set pieces, and they don't detract from the narrative, and that's in large part thanks to the art and paneling. The art has given Kagurabachi its own identity, and it has a very cinematic vibe with the way that the art is composed. And as for the paneling, I'm not a complete expert, but my knowledge has increased since reading Sakamoto Days. You can follow along very easily with the action with no confusion as to what you're looking at, and it does an excellent job at drawing your eyes to what it wants you to look at. For example, take a look at this page here. We are reading what's in the foreground, but also being forced to look from head to toe at these bodies in the background as we move down the page. So it's pretty safe to say that this story has outgrown its meme phase. This is no longer a situation like Mobius where the memes are the best part about it. I mean, I haven't even seen Mobius, but I still also feel pretty comfortable in saying that as well. Kagurabachi did first gain attention thanks to them, but it's retained the attention thanks to its own merits and is now being able to stand on its own 2 feet. And if it carries on like this, then it is sure to get an anime adaptation sooner or later down the line, which will catapult it even further, especially given that by that time, which I'm guessing will be, let's say, 2 years down the line. And by that time, Jujutsu Kaisen's manga will have also ended, and the new top tiers of Shonen Jump will have already began to take root or have taken root. I am sticking to what I said at the start, that Kagurabachi alongside Sakamoto Days and Dandadan will take the reins and push forward from there, but even then those 2 series are already like 100, 150 or more chapters ahead of Kagurabachi, which really puts into perspective how young this story actually is. It hasn't even had a full year of publication yet, and that shows you how much potential it has moving forward. I am very confident to back this story, and I am very happy to say that in the most literal sense I have been in its corner since day one, having read the first chapter on the day it was released. And come day 1000 in a few years from now, here's hoping that it is up there or very close to being one of the most popular series in Shonen Jump. And from there, how long it goes on after that and how good it gets from there, who knows. It's obviously not going to get anywhere near the big three, but apart from that, I'll be optimistic. I won't set any other limitations on its potential. So let us wait and see.